Hey, Chris, do you recognize these sunglasses?
I don't.
These are from the ones that you broke during our pool party, and I had to get a new one.
I didn't break them. You showed your face into my back.
For context, Chris elbowed me in the face because I tried to push him in the pool. He broke my glasses. Now I had to get new glasses.
No,
Anyways,
no.
welcome to Crosscut. Okay. Welcome to Crosscut. I'm your co-host, Josh.
I'm your other co-host, Chris.
So today's special episode. We're doing something a little different this week, right, Chris? We are watching, instead of a movie, we're watching a TV show. That TV show is called Rebel Without a Crew, the Robert Rodriguez Film School.
I had never seen it or anything about that. My brother has the book, actually.
So do I. I guess we'll start actually with the book. That's a good place to start. Anybody that's somewhat interested in film knows who Robert Rodriguez is. He's a pretty well-known persona in general, especially in the indie filmmaking world. Movies anywhere from Sin City to Grindhouse to kid movies like Spy Kids, Shark Boy and Lava Girl. So he's been kind of all over the place, but he's a very versatile filmmaker. And he's probably still to this day one of my favorite filmmakers. So there's a book that came out, that he wrote called Rebel Without a Crew. And basically it's about him making his first feature film called El Mariachi. The book takes place in like 1991, and for him to raise the funds for this, he was basically a lab rat.
Yep.
Chris, I don't know if you've ever read the book. I have. It's a really great book. Anybody that's interested in filmmaking in general should read it just for...
It gives you perspective on how to pretty much make an indie movie.
I think it would also energize the idea for anyone that's on the fence about ever making anything. So I think it would, if you would read this, you'd really get into it. And it's just like, it's one of those books where it's like any young filmmaker has their bookshelf, and that's probably one that's going to be on there. So as I kind of opened this episode, I was joking about how Chris had broke my glasses because I was in Florida about maybe about a month ago now at this point. 3 weeks, almost a month ago. Yeah. And Chris and I made a short film, kind of on the fly. It's called Todd Gator, and
check it out.
I'll put the link in the description if anyone wants to check it out. It's a lot of fun. It's literally just me and Chris just filming, having a good time. So I'll put the link there. And Chris, you kept telling me how it was a lot of fun and how this really kind of ignited that fire again for you as far as wanting to just make stuff.
Yes, it really did. We haven't done a short film together in...
It's like 8 years.
Since 2016, and it really did feel fun to like actually make something again. That did kind of inspire me to like actually do my Alien short film. I knew I was gonna be like the one guy do everything like Robert Rodriguez. I'm gonna be the editor, I'm the writer, I'm starring in it, I'm directing in it, I'm doing everything with it. Yeah. So what now watching Rebel Without a Crew is like, yeah, I'm pretty much following his footsteps in a way. In the first episode, when he's talking about it, that he wants to like recreate what he did with El Mariachi with just a budget of $7,000. The way he starts doing things with the note cards, that was actually pretty cool. I've never really seen that before. And like we weren't taught that either. We'd like go through everything, write the script, do the casting, shoot it, edit, all like that.
And you know what? I will say there isn't one way to do everything, right? Everybody has their process. And he even says it at one point. He says, this is just how I do it. Everybody has their own way. This is how I do it. But you can take things that he does and be like, ooh, I like how he does casting. I like how he does pre-production. I like how he does his storyboards. He doesn't make storyboards. He just takes pictures.
That was actually that was really cool that he did that. Like, that makes perfect sense too. You get what you want in the frame, how you want it, and just actually shoot it afterwards. I like that actually, instead of having all the storyboards scattered around.
This is how it's going to work. So I came up with this idea to watch this show, but we're not watching all of it at once. We're going to watch half of it now, We're going to watch the other half in a couple weeks. And then this whole show is about them making this low budget movie called Red 11. Although, I think on IMDb it's now called something else. But in context of the show, it's called Red 11. It's available to watch. And then we're going to watch that. And basically, it's like the third part of this series that we're doing. So the first 3 episodes we're watching are called Note Cards and Origins, which is the first episode Chris was saying, with him doing the note cards, and then Origins, which is him talking about his backstory. The second episode is called exactly. The second episode is called Casting and Prep. The third episode is called Coverage and Effects. And I love how each episode just kind of breaks down an individual part of like film, or couple individual parts of the process of pre-pro to filming, and then we'll get to eventually on the next one. We'll get to him wrapping up, editing, post, all that stuff. So,
we kind of like already, in a way, talked about the first part of Note Cards and Origins. Now the casting, that was a very different idea of doing things, for sure.
Well, he says he cast before he was even done with the movie, or even done with the script, that was interesting.
And I liked how he was also while he was auditioning, that this one character, which is the doctor with the crazy hairdo, he wasn't in the script at all, but he liked him so much that he made a character from him. I was like, all right, I like that.
Yeah, it's just you're finding inspiration, not just in your head, but from the people around you at that point. It's really cool. So just to backtrack a little bit, obviously I talked about, I was in Florida. We made our short film. I got back and I went to the library, got a bunch of movies. One of the movies that I got, it's one of my favorites, one of my favorite Robert Rodriguez is Grindhouse. And if anybody that has any Robert Rodriguez DVD or Blu-ray, for the most part, check the bonus features, because I was watching a bunch of bonus features and he does these things. And I've been watching this ever since I was before Full Sail, before film school, but it's called the Robert Rodriguez 10-Minute Film School.
Hello, this is Robert Rodriguez and you're watching the 10-Minute Film School for Planet Terror.
And basically, it's all these bonus features he does on his movies, where it's him explaining how he made this thing in the movie. When I was watching this, I was like, oh man, I really want to rewatch his series about him making the movie. Now, there are 2 series, keep in mind. There's 2 of these. There's one that's just called Rebel Without a Crew, which is where he gives 5 filmmakers $7,000 to make their movie, and the series tracks their how they go ahead and make their own individual movie, which is really good. I saw that first back, I think when the pandemic started. Highly recommend it. It's a little harder to find. I own it for someone that just loves film, loves filmmaking, is interested in filmmaking. It's really just a mini film school. I highly recommend it if you can find it. I heard about this series probably around this time last year, and I was like, oh, he did another one, but it's him and his son doing the same thing. I was like, oh, I gotta check this out. So of course I binged it. I think I watched it in one sitting.
I was tempted to binge it today, but oh no, I want to be surprised. So I did the first 3 episodes. I saw the little sneak peek for the next episode. Okay, that's good enough. But I like how his son is helping with everything, and the actors themselves are being part of the crew too. I know almost everyone did the clapperboard.
And I really like how he sets that up. And it's same with the other series, where it's basically it's the one filmmaker, and they get a +1 that basically does everything, and then any actor that's on set can also do any behind the scenes. And I just thought, that's such a cool idea. And just I personally love the idea of a skeleton crew. I've been on big movie sets. I've always been, I get overwhelmed at times with a lot of people. I still go back to my favorite times while we were in film school together were those days during directing class where it's hey, you and your group go make something. Right. And there might have been 4 or 5 of you, and you just make a short film. And to me, that was always the most fun I ever had, was just you and your buddies making a film. And that's basically what this is. It's him and his family making a movie. I mean, how cool is that?
I agree. I like the smaller group also. Even just when we were doing Todd Gator, it was just the 2 of us.
Just the 2 of us, yeah. Since I've kind of gotten back into making stuff, really since I've been home for the last 4 years, since the pandemic, I've only ever really made stuff with a handful of people. And I mean, it's stressful, especially when you're doing camera and directing and, you know, you're editing in your head and you're doing
Yeah.
all this other stuff. It is a lot, but man, you feel so good when you're doing it, you know? And that's kind of how we felt when we were making our thing. It's like we were having fun. I think it was a little less stressful because we knew it was goofy. So it made it a little bit more like, you know, we don't have to be too serious. But even then, it was like, I mean, you saw how frustrated I was getting just trying to get that damn shirt off the damn thing. Fuck you! Fuck you, you stupid fuck! Like I told you, it was like, hey, you know, I'll try to get you out because it was a work night for you. And you were there till like 2 a.m.
Yeah, we did. I think we did everything like 6 or 7 hours.
Right, for a 5-minute short. And I even shot stuff before you got there just to try to get ahead of it. And we still were doing like a half a day of filming. So
comes back to the same thing. Like I browsed the main actor and all that, but I was still helping with other stuff too, right? Like I did some camera work, I did all the little shadow things that we did with the damn mask.
And it was just like you and me just coming up with stuff on the fly, right? It was fun. And that's kind of seems like he does similar stuff when watching this. And I mean, again, I'm such a huge fan of Robert Rodriguez. Sin City might be my favorite movie he's ever done. Just thinking about the original Spy Kids, I watched that movie all the time as a kid. Of course, Grindhouse was my first R-rated. Oh yeah, at first the Grindhouse was the first R-rated movie I ever saw in theaters, and I just even remember like being a young, like in like high school, watching Desperado, Once Upon a Time in Mexico, El Mariachi, and just The Faculty. Actually, that's an underrated Robert Rodriguez movie.
That's the one I love The Faculty, and you've been saying to me that I should watch it, and I never do.
That's probably my top 3 Robert Rodriguez is The Faculty. I love that one. But he has such a, I don't know, just a vast array of movies. And he's had an interesting last 5-ish years of a career. We actually reviewed one of his recent movies last year called Hypnotic. It wasn't that good. Ben Affleck.
It was because it didn't feel like a Robert Rodriguez movie.
Right. But I don't know if you recognize some of the locations was Troublemaker Studios where the series takes place. That was a lot of but you know his last good movie was Alita Battle Angel.
Now that was actually a really good movie.
Yeah, Alita, and it's actually interesting because I didn't realize how old the series was.
Because he mentions
it. He's like, oh yeah, we had an extended lunch break because I had to go do some Alita Battle Angel stuff. And I was like, oh, I forgot so he must have been in like post-production for that or something. And I think in the from what I remember in the last few episodes, you actually see some Alita Battle Angel props, and I think even like sets from when they filmed it. So you'll see some more Alita stuff. But that was probably his last good movie. He did a lot of stuff with The Mandalorian, which is really cool. He did Book of Boba Fett.
Right.
He got really involved in that. But I don't know. He's just like, he has Troublemaker Studios. I mean, I love where they film this. Like, he has his own playground to just make movies. And he's like, this was our conference room, but we turned it into a hospital bed. And I just like.
Yeah, he could do everything he wanted in that studio.
I know. And that's why you should really watch the other series, because there's scenes where he lets the filmmakers go through his wardrobe, which is like a whole warehouse of old wardrobe from like Machete and Desperados, like all that stuff he still has, and they're allowed to use it. And he's got all those props. And I love the stuff when he's talking about, this little syringe I've had since this movie, but you can find it online for less than $5. It's like, it's like good information that you can find about just like stuff like that. And then I kind of wanted to talk about episode 3, coverage and effects, because I love how he just does simple things like the nurse, how he introduces her, where he's like, hey, we're just going to have the doctor move out of the way. And it wasn't even like this. It was 2 different people, but you would never have known. It's like little tricks like that. And then I kind of
with the phone and everything, the special
phone, like who would have thought a magnet, right? Like you would be, like your instinct would have been like fishing wire.
Right. Well, the first thing I did think was a magnet, because that's the first thing I would use too, is just magnet and pull it out. But then it makes sense how he used both the magnets and the fishing wire,
right? And
it looked pretty good, the final result.
It's cool how he shows the scene and then he shows how he made it. I really like that.
Yeah.
So it's just like simple stuff like that. And I kind of use that when, like, for the stuff I've been doing recently, like Todd Gator, there's that shot of you putting the business card back on the fridge. And then literally there's a close up of it where you just see a shadow move out of the way. That's not even you. That was me before you had even gotten there. I already filmed that.
Ah, that's
so,
right. Yeah.
But like stuff like that, I kind of
Yeah, it
learned from
all
like
worked.
watching this and seeing how Robert Rodriguez just does simple things, like even how he stabs the guy in the eye with the syringe.
That was so cool.
Yeah,
The
just
way
like how he
did
did all
that.
the different angles. Because I'm like, how would he's got it hanging like it looks like it's in his eye, but it's just a simple taped next to him. It's just like
Yeah.
stuff like that. Just like being creative with like no budget, like that inspires me.
It really does. And that the whole syringe part or the phone, it did kind of remind me when we were doing the damn hanger for Todd Gator.
I know, just we were coming up with. I mean,
like
we took
literally on the fly. We thought about we got a cue stick to hold up the hanger. Well, I'm with
and don't forget the necklace. Don't forget the Mardi Gras necklace that we wrapped around so it wouldn't move.
Right, the Mardi Gras necklace.
As he says in the show, it's what was it? Rubber bands and duct tape or something like that, or Scotch tape. Like that's basically his like. Mel Mariachi was made with rubber bands and Scotch tape, essentially. Yeah. And I mean, I don't know, just like if that doesn't inspire you, you just want to go out there and like film more cool stuff.
I was talking about it earlier that just watching those 3 episodes, it made me want to continue my film. I already shot like one little scene. It was no dialogue, but I was shooting it how I would see it editing wise. And that's exactly what I did. But I'm also thinking shooting it on 0 budget pretty much. I'm making it simple as hell as I can. And it's exactly what he does.
But you're doing it.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I just thought like something like this would be like a perfect for, after us making something again and you still trying to make your thing, to watch something like this, to really keep that flame going. Not that it ever is dying, but
sometimes it's questionable.
Actually, the one thing I also really appreciated that he does, there's the scene where he shows the cast and crew the trailer after like a day of filming. I love how he's like, if this doesn't motivate you, I don't know what will. And you can see all their reactions,
I admire that part. It gives them, all the actors, a boost of like confidence to keep going. It actually looks cool. Like we all did that. Let's keep going.
Yeah, because sometimes when you're filming, you're just like, man, how is this gonna cut together? And do I look stupid? Sometimes you're just like, do I look stupid? Like, But then you see it cut together, and you're like, okay, all right, yeah, I see where you're going with this. And I don't know, just like Robert Rodriguez, he's that kind of guy that he would film 14-hour day. Instead of going home and falling asleep, he'd go home and he'd just start editing. So
like a complete editor with sound and everything.
Exactly. So on our next episode, for my choice, we'll be watching the last 3 episodes.
Right.
But kind of where I did want to take this conversation to end with is this. And it's the idea of film school in general. You and I obviously went to film school. That's how we met. We went to a 2-year school. It was all focused on film pretty much for the most part. We learned lighting, editing, everything, right?
Aspect of filmmaking.
But like, again, you watch something like this and you weren't taught those little things, right?
No.
And I don't know, just like
he is pretty much self-taught.
That's the whole thing, is like self-taught versus traditional school. I'm always grateful for my time at film school, but it does make you wonder. It just, especially nowadays, do you really need to go to school for this?
I mean, I've heard it from different people too. Like, is film school worth it while you can just self-teach yourself everything and you still can come up with something awesome? But I can see the differences. Like, go to film school, you know the industry standard. If you were actually working like in a Hollywood film, you have access to everything at film school. And then you have
at least, for ours, we did. I know some film schools, they don't even give you equipment. I mean, obviously ours was expensive, but we had the resources at least.
We had the
sound stages, the backlot, the lighting. I mean, we still got to shoot on film for
actual film, not just actual film. Digital. But that's also what I'm saying is, like, at film school, you still have something that you can still do that you see in Hollywood films.
It's structured learning, whereas this is like just
It's guerrilla.
Guerrilla learning. Yeah.
Yeah, it is guerrilla style. You don't need all those fancy equipment to actually make a good story. There is a difference, but you also see it's more indie stuff than Hollywood stuff.
I mean, honestly, I think for myself, I think that's where I'm at this point. You know,
More
when we were at
indie.
film school together, my dream was to make a huge studio, $200 million type movie, right? And I
Right.
mean, don't get me wrong, I go see big movies in theaters and I still, you know, at times want to do that stuff. But realistically, I don't think that'll ever happen for me at this point. I'm just being real. I mean, I'm 34 years old. I haven't even made a feature film yet. But like watching stuff like Robert Rodriguez and his son and a handful of unknown actors make a movie for no money with cameras that we could easily rent
Yeah.
and have used before, and just learning as you go and little tips and tricks. To me, that's the dream of why I got into this in the first place. You and your buddies making a movie. I mean, it might not necessarily always put dinner on the table. It might not always necessarily pay the car bill, but
you pour your passion into it.
It's a weird balance. As they say, it's the starving artist. I mean, Robert Rodriguez ain't starving. I mean, you saw his posters with his $100 million box offices, but you know, he's had obviously like, you know, big movies where he's had hundreds of crew members there and everything. Sure. But at the same time, he's made those types of movies like Sin City, where I'm pretty sure he was also the DP, and he still likes to do a lot of that stuff himself. Mm-hmm. So he's just like he's found such a way to make that balance work. But I look at his El Mariachis and his, you know, Red 11s, and I'm just like, that's, I feel like if I could just do that for the rest of my life, I feel like I'd be pretty happy, as long as people are end up watching the movie.
Yeah. Like it. True.
Where are you at? I mean, I know you're not looking to pack up and move to Hollywood tomorrow.
No. Kind of on the same boat with you, where at Full Sail, like, okay, I want to work on these big feature films and everything like that. But then I was like, realistically, after graduating, I was like, that is not happening. I pretty much just went freelance working on things that weren't even movies. They were more reality, sports, all that kind of stuff. And I got tired of it. It's the constant traveling, and I wasn't really getting the stuff that I really wanted to do. So I just kind of like settled for camera operator or something like that, the countless PA jobs. And then I stopped. I didn't want to do it anymore. I kind of like lost everything that I wanted to do with film. Pretty much until like we did Snooze together, kind of kept it up again. And then after that, like same thing. Like I lost it, didn't want to do anything, didn't know anybody that would want to do it or how to do it. I didn't want to be like the one-man show kind of thing. Again, it's been up and down for me. When we did Toy Gator, made a little fire and like wanting to push it, even though everyone around me keeps saying to do it, just do it.
It's always easy to say go do it, and it's a whole different ballpark to actually go do it.
And that's what my response is.
After being out of school now for over 10 years, we're still trying. There's something to that. Before we cut, print, and move on, I did want to ask final question, because I was hopeful that I would get a good reaction. Did you enjoy the first 3 episodes of Rebel Without a Crew, the Robert Rodriguez Film School?
I really enjoyed it. It brought back to like memories and stuff like that of making films, and it as a filmmaker, I really liked it. Even as an audience, I really liked it too. It was entertaining. It was interesting. It was all the different things that he does that you wouldn't think, but it works. So I definitely would recommend this, especially for any aspiring filmmakers, to kind of like pick up some tips and go do your thing.
I'm glad you liked it. This is just part 1 of essentially what's going to be a 3-part series. Yep. So in a couple of weeks, come back, because we're going to be wrapping up this show. And then a couple of weeks after that, we'll be reviewing the movie. I want to thank everybody for watching. And Chris, you know what to do from here.
Cut, print, moving on.
And this is going to be a tail slate. Cut, print, moving on.
Cut, print, moving on.